While the rest of the world has hurtled toward glass and steel skyscrapers, automated checkout lanes, and the relentless hum of the 21st century, a handful of American towns seem to have missed the memo. Walking down their main streets isn't just a trip down memory lane. It's a full immersion experience in a time when neon was king, pastel diners were the social hubs, and life moved at the speed of a Sunday drive. Quick favor before we move on. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 92% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So did you subscribe already? Great, thank you so much for your support. Now back to the video. These aren't recreations or tourist traps designed to look old. These are living time capsules where the architecture, the pace, and the community spirit never quite left 1963. Here are 10 U.S. towns that look like they pressed pause on the 60s and never hit play again. 1. Mount Airy, North Carolina. Why number 1? The real-life inspiration for Mayberry from the Andy Griffith Show, where 1960s small-town values are a way of life. Mount Airy doesn't just look like the 60s. It feels like the decade's moral compass. As the hometown of Andy Griffith, the town has leaned into its identity as the quintessential American village. You can still hop into a vintage Ford Galaxy squad car for a tour of the town, stop by Floyd's City Barbershop for a trim, or grab a ground steak sandwich at Snappy Lunch, just as Andy did. The town's preservation isn't a gimmick. It's a commitment to a slower pace of life. The storefronts are pristine, the people are genuinely neighborly, and the lack of corporate sprawl on the main drag makes you wonder if the internet has actually reached this part of the Blue Ridge foothills yet. 2. Palm Springs, California. Why number 2? The world's most intact mid-century modern time capsule, frozen in the glamour of the Rat Pack era. If Mount Airy is the 60s family room, Palm Springs is the 60s cocktail lounge. This desert oasis is a living museum of desert modernism. Walking through neighborhoods like Twin Palms or Vista Las Palmas is like walking through a 1964 issue of Architectural Digest. The town is a sea of butterfly roofs, breeze blocks, and jewel-toned doors. The local hotels, like the Orbit Inn and the Saguaro, maintain the kitschy, sun-soaked aesthetic that attracted Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley. In 2026, it remains the ultimate destination for those who believe that design peaked with the Eames chair and a well-shaken martini. 3. Asbury Park, New Jersey. Why number 3? A gritty, soulful boardwalk town that still carries the neon spunk and musical DNA of the late 60s. While many Jersey Shore towns have been polished into oblivion, Asbury Park retains the raw, salt-aired nostalgia of the era that inspired Bruce Springsteen. The Asbury Park Convention Hall and the iconic Greetings from Asbury Park neon signs look exactly as they did when they hosted the Beach Boys and the Doors. The town's resurgence has been careful to preserve its 1960s soul. You'll find retro arcades filled with pinball machines from 1962 and storied music venues like the Stone Pony that refuse to modernize their weathered, legendary interiors. It's a place where the 1960s cool didn't die. It just got a little more character. 4. Bisbee, Arizona. Why number 4? A former mining town turned artistic enclave that preserved its bohemian, counterculture spirit from the late 60s. Tucked into the Mule Mountains, Bisbee looks like a movie set. When the copper mine slowed down in the late 60s, a wave of artists, hippies, and dreamers moved in, effectively freezing the town's aesthetic in place. The steep, winding streets are lined with colorful Victorian-turned bohemian homes and vintage storefronts that haven't changed their signage in 60 years. There are no traffic lights and no chain stores in the historic district. Instead, you have 1960s-era saloons, indie bookstores, and a community that still operates on the live and let live philosophy of the hippie era. 5. Silverton, Colorado. Why number 5? An isolated mountain town where the 1960s Wild West revival never went out of style. Silverton is a town of one road in and one road out. Because of its extreme isolation in the San Juan Mountains, modern development simply never arrived. The town's main street is a dirt road flanked by brightly painted 19th century buildings that were last renovated during the Western craze of the early 1960s. The arrival of the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad, a steam train, daily adds to the feeling that you've slipped through a crack in time. It's a rugged, unpretentious place where the 1960s version of the American frontier is still the daily reality. 6. Mineral Point, Wisconsin. Why number 6? An architectural hidden gem that preserved its limestone charm while the rest of the Midwest modernized. Mineral Point was the first city in Wisconsin to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and it shows. In the 1960s, a group of artists led a preservation revolution, saving the town's unique Cornish limestone cottages from demolition. The result is a town that looks remarkably untouched. The downtown area is a collection of 1960s-style galleries and workshops housed in mid-19th century shells. It's a quiet, dignified kind of nostalgia, a place where the rush of the 21st century feels like a distant rumor. 7. Woodstock, New York. Why number 7? The spiritual home of the 1960s counterculture, where the peace and love aesthetic is still the law of the land. While the actual 1969 festival was 60 miles away, the town of Woodstock has spent the last 60 years perfecting its role as the world's most famous hippie colony. Tinker Street is still lined with hand-painted signs, indie record stores selling vintage vinyl, and tie-dye boutiques. The town has resisted every attempt at corporate encroachment. You won't find a McDonald's here. Instead, you'll find community bulletin boards filled with flyers for drum circles and folk concerts. In Woodstock, the 1960s didn't just stay, it became the town's entire personality. 8. Havana, Illinois. Why number 8? A river town that perfectly captures the Main Street, USA vibe of the mid-1960s. Havana is a place where the local gossip still travels faster than a high-speed fiber-optic connection. The town's brick-paved streets and vintage storefronts are a testament to a time when life centered around the local hardware store and the town square. The pace of life in Havana is intentionally slow. It's the kind of town where the neon sign on the theater still flickers to life at dusk, and the local diners still serve coffee in thick ceramic mugs. It represents the quiet 1960s, the one that existed away from the protests and the moon landing. 9. Abilene, Kansas. Why number 9? The hometown of Dwight D. Eisenhower, preserved as a tribute to the Eisenhower era of the early 60s. Abilene feels like a pristine, black-and-white photograph brought to life. Because of its deep ties to the Eisenhower presidency, the town has maintained a strict Ike-era aesthetic. The neighborhoods are filled with perfectly manicured lawns and mid-century ranch homes that look like they were built yesterday. The town square and the Eisenhower Presidential Library create a shrine to the early 1960s, a time of American optimism and post-war prosperity that the town refuses to let go of. 10. Wall, South Dakota. Why number 10? A roadside legend that survived by doubling down on 1960s-style tourist kitsch. Wall Drug is the town, and the town is Wall Drug. In the 1960s, Wall became a legendary road trip pit stop thanks to thousands of billboards across the country. Today, the town remains a sprawling complex of Western kitsch, featuring giant jackalope statues, animatronic dinosaurs, and 5-cent coffee. It's the ultimate 1960s roadside attraction, untouched by the sleek, minimalist trends of modern travel. Walking through Wall is a reminder of a time when the journey was just as important as the destination, and when a free glass of ice water was enough to make you pull over. Why these towns matter in 2026? The appeal of these paused towns in 2026 isn't just about the vintage signs or the lack of skyscrapers. It's about cultural endurance. In a world that feels increasingly fragmented and fast-paced, these towns offer a reset button. They remind us of a time when communities were more face-to-face, when architecture had a distinct soul, and when breaking news didn't follow you into the diner. Whether you're looking for the glamour of Palm Springs or the quietude of Havana, these 10 towns prove that sometimes the best way to move forward is to simply stop moving.